My name is Elena. I am 34 years old. Last Tuesday, the man who once held a world championship belt in mixed martial arts asked a retired Special Forces janitor to spar with him for fun in front of a gymnasium full of onlookers. When the fighter sneered, expecting to humiliate the older man, the janitor simply smiled and whispered, "You have already lost." I stood in the corner of that gym, clutching a thick legal binder, watching the color drain from the champion's face as he realized his career was effectively over. Before I tell you what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story resonates with you. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you are listening from. My father was a man who measured his life by trophies and the applause of strangers. He managed a high-end investment firm in Chicago, but his true obsession was his son, my older brother, Julian. Julian was the golden child, a collegiate athlete who moved through the world with an arrogance that mirrored our father's. I was simply the administrative error in their perfect legacy. My mother, a woman who treated social standing like a religion, ensured I was always dressed in hand-me-downs, even while Julian's closet was filled with designer suits. The only warmth I knew in that house came from Mr. Henderson, the man who maintained our estate. He was a retired Special Forces operative who had transitioned into private security and estate management after a career-ending injury. He was quiet, meticulous, and saw everything. While my father ignored my academic achievements, Mr. Henderson would leave handwritten notes on my textbooks, encouraging my interest in law and strategy. He taught me that power was not about the loudest voice in the room, but about having the most leverage. The pattern of neglect was consistent. When I won the regional debate championship at 16, my father didn't show up. He was at a golf tournament with Julian. When I graduated at the top of my class, he spent the evening boasting about Julian's mediocre season. The weight of these moments settled into my bones. I learned to be invisible, to study their habits, and to wait. The inciting incident occurred on a rainy Tuesday in November. I had spent years quietly documenting my father's firm's erratic financial dealings to protect my own inheritance, which had been set aside by my late grandmother in a protected trust. My father, needing capital to fund Julian's failing sports marketing venture, attempted to illegally liquidate my trust. He called me into his office, surrounded by his legal counsel and Julian, and presented me with a document that would have stripped me of everything. "Sign it, Elena," he said, his voice flat. "You owe this to your brother." I looked at the pen, then at the clock on the wall, and felt a strange, cold peace. "No," I said quietly. I stood up, walked out of the office, and drove directly to the office of the attorney Mr. Henderson had introduced me to years prior. The preparation phase was long and methodical. I spent months gathering evidence with the help of the legal team, ensuring every transaction, every fraudulent signature, and every tax evasion scheme was documented. I lived in a state of quiet focus. There were nights when the weight of the betrayal felt like a physical pressure on my chest, and I would sit in my kitchen at 2 a.m., wondering if I was doing the right thing. But then I would look at the photograph of my grandmother on the mantel, and I would think of Mr. Henderson's calm demeanor. I knew I was not acting out of malice, but out of necessity. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, please let me know in the comments. How did you find your path to independence? The public reckoning took place at the annual charity gala, an event attended by all of my father's high-profile investors and associates. It was there that my father, blinded by his own hubris, attempted to humiliate me once more by announcing a family investment partnership that included my liquidated trust. The room of 300 guests fell silent as I walked onto the stage. I didn't shout. I simply held up the binder of evidence and asked the firm's primary auditor to look at the documents provided to him by my legal team. The reaction was immediate. As the auditor began to read, the investors began to leave. The sound of their footsteps on the marble floor was the loudest thing I had ever heard. The sound of their footsteps on the marble floor was the loudest thing I had ever heard. In the weeks that followed, the consequence cascade was relentless. My father's firm was liquidated by federal authorities, and his professional license was revoked. Julian's Sports Marketing Company collapsed under the weight of his own lawsuits. I did not participate in their downfall. I simply watched it happen from the periphery, focusing entirely on my new life. I now live in a small, sunlight-filled house with the family I chose. Every Sunday, we gather for a meal that is simple and warm. There is no performance here, no competition for status, and no neglect. The table is filled with laughter and the sound of mismatched plates clinking. The people who once tried to diminish me are nowhere to be found, and in their absence, I have found a profound sense of peace. If you are watching this and you recognize yourself in this story, know that you are not the mistakes of your past. You are allowed to set boundaries. You are allowed to protect your future. You are allowed to redefine what family means to you. Apologies expire, but boundaries do not. Please subscribe if this story resonated with you, and remember that the truth does not require a loud voice to be heard. You don't owe anyone your life. Find your own table and sit at it with those who truly see you. Find your own table and sit at it with those who truly see you.